I hunched over my cracked laptop screen, my unsteady fingers hovering above the worn keys. A shaky video looped endlessly before me, its dim glow illuminating my shadowed Boise apartment. The pulsating strobe lights of a gritty Tacoma lounge flickered across the footage I couldn't stop watching. My partner of 7 years, now my ex, swayed drunkenly, his hands gripping a stranger's waist tightly. His lips grazed her ear, whispering secrets I once believed he reserved solely for my heart. A random acquaintance from my old job had emailed me the clip without warning. Her message was brief, clinical, stating only that I deserved to know the ugly truth. He'd sworn he was stuck late at the warehouse, finishing inventory for a deadline. I'd even brewed him coffee that morning, kissed his cheek, and wished him a safe shift. Now, the bitter reality unfolded on my screen. He'd been unraveling our life instead. For years, I'd anchored myself in trust, certain his promises were unshakable and true. That unshakable faith shattered now, leaving me hollow, the betrayal slicing deeper than I'd imagined. My chest throbbed with a raw, unfamiliar ache, as if my core had been carved out. Every breath felt labored, each heartbeat echoing the loss of who I thought we were. The weeks following our messy breakup blurred into a haze of unrelenting solitude. I'd pushed away friends long ago, leaving no one to soften the deafening silence. My cramped Spokane studio became a prison, its peeling walls closing in with every passing day. The world outside spun forward relentlessly, while I remained trapped in my own suffocating despair. One chilly evening, as rain streaked my window, my phone buzzed sharply against the table. Hesitant, I glanced at the caller ID. It was my cousin calling from Salem unexpectedly. I let it vibrate 3 times, debating, before finally answering with a voice rough from disuse. "Hey, it's been a while," I croaked, unsure what she wanted after so long apart. "Why didn't you tell me about the breakup?" she asked, her tone firm yet gentle with concern. "I had to hear it from Uncle Ray that you and Landon split up." I squeezed my eyes shut, exhaling slowly, unwilling to relive the wreckage aloud just yet. "Didn't feel like shouting it to the world," I muttered, my words clipped and guarded. A faint rustle crackled through the line, then a brighter voice broke in, young and lively. "Hey, it's your favorite nephew," he chimed, and I could hear his grin through the phone. Instantly, I pictured him, those piercing gray eyes, the scar above his brow from skateboarding. Something tight in my chest loosened slightly, a faint warmth seeping through the numbness unexpectedly. "Yeah, it's been way too long," I admitted, my voice softening despite the weight I carried. "Heard about what happened with you and that jerk," he said, pausing for my reaction carefully. "It's okay, really," I lied, swallowing hard to keep the tremor out of my words completely. "No, it's not okay, and you don't have to pretend with me," he countered firmly. A heavy silence stretched between us, the rain tapping insistently against my windowpane outside. "I miss you a ton," he said finally, his honesty cutting through my carefully built walls. "We used to talk constantly before you moved away, and I hate this distance now." A dry laugh escaped me, surprising even myself, the sound rusty from weeks of disuse. "I'm not loving this whole recluse aunt thing either," I confessed, a faint smile tugging my lips. "Then let's fix it. I'll drive up from Portland this weekend to see you," he offered eagerly. I hesitated, torn between wanting his company and fearing I'd drag him into my gloom. "Are you absolutely sure you want to waste your weekend on me?" I asked cautiously. "Completely sure. I'll be there by Friday night," he replied, his confidence unwavering and infectious. For the first time in months, a flicker of something alive stirred deep within me. I felt a quiet pull, a sense that maybe I wasn't as invisible as I believed. The days before his visit buzzed with a nervous energy I hadn't felt in forever. My studio had fallen into chaos, coffee cups littered the counter, blankets tangled on the futon messily. I hadn't cared about the mess before, letting it mirror the disorder inside my head completely. But now, knowing he was coming, I found myself scrubbing surfaces and folding throws hastily. I cracked the windows wide, letting crisp spoken air chase out the stale, heavy stillness. At the corner store, I grabbed snacks he'd loved as a kid, pickled jalapeno chips, cherry cola. It was strange, the sudden shift, caring about details I'd ignored for weeks on end suddenly. Anticipation built steadily, a fragile thread of hope weaving through my fractured days slowly. When the buzzer rasped late Friday, my pulse jumped, nerves tingling beneath my skin unexpectedly. I smoothed my faded hoodie, pressed the button, and swung the door open with bated breath. There stood Tatum, my nephew, filling the frame with a presence I hadn't anticipated fully. At 23, he wasn't the lanky kid I'd last seen. He'd grown into something solid, striking. His chestnut hair was wind-tossed, longer now, framing a face still lit with that boyish grin. "Hey, stranger," he greeted, his voice warm and steady, pulling me into an easy familiarity instantly. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile despite the lump rising in my throat quickly. "Hey, you little menace," I shot back, stepping aside to let him inside my space. "Menace? I'm a grown man now," he teased, dropping his worn backpack by the door casually. "Sure, but you're still the kid who hid my keys in the freezer once," I retorted playfully. He laughed, a deep, rolling sound that echoed through the room, loosening the tension I carried. "Okay, I was like 12. Can't you let that one go already?" he pleaded, grinning wide. "No chance. That's etched in stone forever," I said, shutting the door with a soft click. He stretched his arms high, scanning my small, cluttered studio with an appraising. Curious, I slowly. "This place is cool, kinda gritty, but it's totally you," he said, nodding with approval. I shrugged, suddenly self-conscious about the chipped paint and mismatched furniture around us. "It's just me here, nothing fancy," I mumbled, brushing off his compliment with a wave. "That's why I had to come check on you," he said, his tone gentling noticeably. Something in my gut twisted, a mix of gratitude and guilt I couldn't quite name yet. He flopped onto the futon, sprawling out like he'd lived here forever, instantly at home. "So what's the game plan for the weekend?" he asked, propping his head on his hand casually. "I'm not letting you sit here stewing in your own head the whole time," he added firmly. I crossed my arms, raising an eyebrow at his sudden take-charge attitude with mock skepticism. "Oh, you're running the show now, huh? What's your brilliant idea, then?" I challenged. "First, we're getting food you pick, but it better be good," he started, smirking confidently. "Then, we're doing something fun. No satsack vibes allowed under my watch," he continued smoothly. "Tomorrow, we're getting you out of this cave. You've been locked up too long," he finished decisively. I opened my mouth to argue, to say I wasn't up for any of it, but stopped. Instead, I nodded slowly, surprising myself with how easily I gave in to his plan. "Fine, but I'm choosing the food, and you're not complaining," I warned, half smiling at him. He groaned dramatically, rolling his eyes like I'd sentenced him to a terrible fate already. "As long as it's not some weird kale smoothie nonsense, I'll survive," he grumbled playfully. I smirked, feeling a lightness I hadn't known I could still muster after everything. That night, we ordered greasy tacos, sprawled on the floor with hot sauce staining our fingers messily. We laughed over dumb bets, like who could eat the spiciest salsa without wincing noticeably. It felt effortless, like the years apart had melted away in an instant somehow. I picked a cheesy horror flick, and he groaned but watched, chucking popcorn at the screen gleefully. Halfway through, I caught him glancing at me, checking if I was actually enjoying myself again. I was, more than I'd thought possible, the ache in my chest easing just slightly. Exhaustion crept in late, weeks of sleepless nights finally catching up with me heavily. My eyes fluttered shut, and I didn't fight it, letting myself sink into the moment fully. I must have dozed off, because when I stirred, I felt warmth pressed close beside me. Blinking groggily, I realized I'd slumped against Tatum, my head resting on his steady shoulder. He hadn't moved away, just stayed there, his breathing calm and even as ever. For a moment, I didn't shift, letting the rare comfort of closeness wash over me quietly. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be near someone, to not feel utterly alone anymore. "You okay?" he murmured, his voice low and thick with sleep, startling me slightly. "Yeah, I'm good," I whispered back, my throat tight with something I couldn't name. He didn't pull away, and neither did I, the quiet wrapping around us like a blanket. For the first time in months, I wasn't isolated, and I clung to that feeling desperately. Morning light filtered through the blinds, the smell of coffee pulling me from a deep sleep. I thought I dreamed the night before, but then I saw him in my kitchen clearly. Tatum stood there, barefoot, flipping something on the stove with a practiced, easy motion. My breath hitched. He wasn't the kid I remembered. He'd grown into something else entirely. Broad shoulders, a quiet confidence. He'd become a man while I'd been lost in my spiral. "Morning, sleepyhead," he called, flashing a grin that still held that familiar mischief somehow. I rubbed my eyes, sitting up slowly, trying to shake the haze of sleep off me. "You're up early. Did I miss something?" I asked, my voice still rough from the night before. "Figured I'd let you crash. You looked like you hadn't slept in weeks," he said casually. He was right. Last night was the first time I'd rested without nightmares in ages. "What's on the menu?" I asked, patting over to peek at the sizzling pan curiously. "French toast, gonna start your day right," he said, pride lacing his tone unmistakably. I snorted, leaning against the counter, watching him work with an ease I didn't expect. "Since when do you cook anything that doesn't come from a box?" I teased lightly. "Since I got tired of ramen every night at school," he replied, flipping a slice deftly. I studied him, the way he moved, the grown-up version of him I'd missed unfolding. He caught me staring, smirking as he plated the food with a flourish suddenly. "What's with the look? You're creeping me out a little," he said, laughing. "Just weird seeing you all adult-like," I admitted, grabbing the coffee he'd poured for me. He slid into the chair across from me, setting a stack of toast between us carefully. "Well, get used to it. I'm here to drag you back to the living," he said firmly. I took a bite, the sweetness hitting my tongue, and I couldn't help but smile faintly. "You're really pulling out all the stops, huh?" I asked, sipping the coffee slowly, savoring it. "Is it working, or do I need to up my game?" he shot back, grinning wide. His eyes lingered on me, though, shifting from playful to something deeper, more searching. "You look different today, less like you're carrying the world," he said, tilting his head. My chest tightened, his words landing heavier than I'd expected them to after so long. "Maybe having a live-in chef helps," I deflected, forcing a lightness I didn't fully feel. He chuckled, but his gaze didn't waver, studying me like he saw past my flimsy armor. "Seriously, though, you're stunning, you know that," he said, his voice dropping low, earnest. I froze, my mug halfway to my lips, heat creeping up my neck unbidden suddenly. "Knock it off, Tatum." I laughed, brushing it off as a joke to steady myself quickly. "I mean it. You should see what I see," he pressed, his eyes locked on mine intently. My pulse stuttered, the air between us thickening with something I couldn't quite grasp yet. "So what's your grand scheme for today?" I asked, redirecting before I lost my footing entirely. He leaned back, smirking like he knew I was dodging but letting it slide gracefully. "We're hitting a bar tonight. Gonna get you out of your shell," he announced boldly. I nearly choked on my coffee, staring at him like he'd lost his mind completely. "A bar? I haven't been to one in years," I protested, shaking my head vigorously. "Exactly why we're going. I scoped out a spot downtown already," he said undeterred. "No way, I'm not in the mood for that scene." I argued, crossing my arms stubbornly. Yes, Wei, you need this, and I'm not taking no for an answer, he countered firmly. He leaned forward, his voice softening, coaxing me with that same steady confidence always. Come on, just trust me. It'll be good for you, I promise, he urged gently. My resolve wavered, his certainty tugging at something buried beneath my exhaustion and doubt. Fine, but if it's a disaster, you're buying me coffee for a month. I relented finally. Deal, he grinned, triumphant, and I wondered what I'd just signed up for nervously. That night, I stood before my smudged mirror, tugging at the hem of a sleek black top. It hugged my frame in a way I hadn't dared since before everything fell apart completely. My hair fell loose, brushing my shoulders, and a swipe of gloss sharpened my reflection subtly. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Someone alive, not just a ghost of myself anymore. Stepping out, I caught Tatum's eye, and he paused, his breath hitching for a split second noticeably. Damn, you're killing it, he said, his voice rougher than usual, catching me off guard. Too much? I asked, fidgeting with the neckline, suddenly unsure of my bold choice. Not even close, perfect, he replied, stepping closer, his gaze unwavering and intense now. The air shifted, heavy with something unspoken, and my stomach flipped despite my efforts. Let's go show him up, he said, offering his hand with a grin that steadied me somehow. I took it, his grip warm, and followed him out into the night, feeling alive again. The bar thrummed with life, bass vibrating through the floor as we pushed inside cautiously. Dim lights cast long shadows, the air thick with smoke and the tang of spilled beer. It was a world I'd forgotten, loud, chaotic, pulsing with energy I hadn't felt in years. Tatum moved effortlessly, his hand brushing my back, guiding me through the crowd with quiet assurance. You holding up? He asked, leaning close, his voice cutting through the clamor around us sharply. Yeah, it's overwhelming but not awful, I admitted, scanning the sea of faces nervously. He laughed, low and easy, pulling me toward the bar with a gentle, insistent tug. First round's on me. Something strong to loosen you up, he declared, signaling the bartender. I smirked, settling onto a stool, watching him order with a confidence I envied silently. He handed me a glass, dark liquid swirled with a twist of orange, sharp and inviting. Try it, trust me, he said, clinking his drink against mine with a mischievous wink. I sipped, the burn smoothing into warmth, and nodded, impressed despite myself completely. Now we dance, he announced, draining his glass and pulling me up before I could protest. The music shifted, a deep rhythm rolling through the room, pulling bodies onto the floor instantly. He didn't hesitate, guiding me into the sway, his hands light but sure against my waist. I let go, moving with him, the world narrowing to just us in that moment. Lights flashed, voices faded, and for once, I wasn't drowning in what I'd lost anymore. We spun through songs, his laugh mingling with mine, the weight lifting with every step we took. Another! He shouted over the beat, his eyes glinting with a wild, infectious energy now. I nodded, breathless, following him back to the bar for something bolder, spicier this time. To shaking things up, he toasted, and I echoed it, the drink igniting a fire within me. Back on the floor, the night blurred, motion, heat, his hand steadying me as I swayed. I felt light, untethered, laughing as he caught me when my balance slipped just slightly. You good? He asked, close now, his voice grounding me through the spinning haze. I think I nodded, but then the edges softened, the room tilting in slow, dreamy waves. Lights smeared into streaks, the music muffling into a distant hum I couldn't grasp anymore. My legs buckled, and I don't remember anything beyond his arms keeping me upright gently. Morning crept in with the chatter of sparrows, sunlight stabbing through my blinds too brightly. My head pounded, a dull throb pulsing behind my eyes as I stirred slowly. I was sprawled on the futon, still in last night's top, a throw blanket tucked around me. My boots sat neatly by the coffee table, placed there by someone else's careful hands. Confusion settled in, fragments of the night flickering back, the bar, the drinks, Tatum's grin. I sat up, wincing, my throat parched, the ache in my temples sharp and unrelenting now. I'd never blacked out before, not like this, and the gap in my memory unnerved me deeply. Something felt off, a quiet unease curling in my gut I couldn't shake loose. I stood, steadying myself on the futon's arm, and shuffled toward the kitchen slowly, uncertainly. Tatum sat at my rickety table, sipping coffee, his expression calm but unreadable at first glance. "Morning, party animal," he teased, his voice light, though his eyes studied me too closely. "What the hell happened last night?" I rasped, sinking into a chair across from him. "Grab that coffee, you'll need it," he said, nudging a steaming mug my way with a nod. I wrapped my hands around it, the heat anchoring me as I waited for his explanation. "You got woozy out there, too much dancing, maybe too much booze," he said nonchalantly. "Didn't want you crashing on the floor, so I hauled you back here," he added simply. I frowned, sifting through the fog, trying to piece together what I couldn't recall fully. "Did I say anything stupid? Anything I'd regret?" I asked, my voice tight with worry. "You mumbled I'm the best nephew ever. Pretty embarrassing stuff," he said, smirking playfully. I huffed a laugh, but the knot in my stomach didn't unravel quite yet. "I woke up here on the futon," I said, testing, watching his face for any flicker carefully. "Yeah, where else?" "I wasn't gonna dump you somewhere random," he replied, steady sure. Relief trickled in, easing the tension, though a shadow of doubt lingered stubbornly still. I sipped the coffee, letting it burn down my throat, my mind spinning with half-formed questions. He watched me, his gaze quiet, and I wondered if I was imagining the shift between us. Something had tilted last night, something unspoken, and I wasn't sure what it meant yet. I sat there clutching my coffee, the steam curling up as Tatum's gaze held mine steadily. Something unspoken hummed between us, an undercurrent I couldn't name but felt in my bones. "You're awfully quiet. Still piecing together last night?" he asked, leaning forward with a teasing grin. I nodded slowly, the fog in my head refusing to lift despite the caffeine's sharp bite. "It's weird not remembering. I don't usually lose myself like that," I admitted, frowning deeply. He shrugged, sipping his drink, his casual ease contrasting my tangled, restless thoughts perfectly. "You had fun, though, dancing like that. Laughing. I haven't seen you that free in ages," he said. His words landed soft but heavy, stirring a warmth I wasn't ready to examine too closely. "Guess I needed it more than I realized," I murmured, staring into my mug's dark depths. He tilted his head, studying me like he could see straight through my flimsy defenses again. "You deserve more nights like that. More than just surviving," he said, his voice low, earnest now. My pulse quickened, his intensity catching me off guard, making the room feel smaller suddenly. "What's that supposed to mean?" I asked, deflecting with a laugh that sounded forced even to me. "Just that I'm not letting you slip back into that gloom," he replied, unwavering, resolute. I shifted in my seat, the weight of his care pressing against my carefully built walls. "You don't have to play hero, Tatum. I'll figure it out," I said, brushing him off lightly. He smirked, but his eyes stayed serious, locked on mine with a quiet, stubborn determination. "Too late. I'm already in it," he said, and something in his tone shifted everything again. The air thickened, my breath catching as I realized this wasn't just Nephew anymore. Whatever had sparked last night wasn't fading. It was growing, and I didn't know what to do.